Hello and welcome to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. I'm your host, Braden Belknap, and I'm a human just like you, striving to build a big life, all while staying true to me. We're so blessed to have Snyder on, as he went from being an employee, going through a lot of depression, and transforming his life by going on an adventure. And through this adventure, he found what was true to him, what was not. And in the process, he found what he was naturally good at and loved, and went and built a company named Story. Now, Story is a process and a company that helps you bring your voice, your authentic authority, and your voice to market in a simple, profound way. And through his struggles, his triumphs, he's built his authentic self, and now he's helping all of you entrepreneurs make the same happen. Hey guys, I want to just take a quick pause to introduce Email Tool Tester, the place to get started with email marketing. With its reviews of email marketing services like GetResponse, ConvertKit, MailChimp, and many more, Email Tool Tester takes email marketing to a whole new level. To get started, take advantage of Tool Tester's free ebook, the Email Marketing Crash Course, with the link below. And back to the show. Connor, welcome to the show, man.
Dude, I'm so stoked to be here.
Absolutely. I've watched you for a while, obviously, from being connected with Devin.
Yeah.
And you're making an impact in this world. It's exciting to see.
Dude, we're having fun. We're having fun. Yeah.
So what inspired you to help other entrepreneurs build their authenticity and, most importantly, their authority along authenticity in the marketplace?
What inspired me to do it? I don't know. So it's funny. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who are vision first. They just have this deep sense of vision and purpose. And for me, I've always kind of found it as I go along the way. For me, I didn't start from, I have this giant vision of this thing I want to build. It was kind of, I want to do a side gig so I can make a little extra cash. That's how it started. And for me, the potential, it's the whole analogy of you got the piece of granite and the sculptor, finds it as they, start to design it in their head. For me, it was, I just started hammering at this piece of granite and then realized, I could make a face here or make an arm there. I tried doing some stuff with social media, and I tried doing stuff with video editing, and then all of a sudden this kind of opportunity appeared to build Story, and that's what we started doing. So, I don't think there was one moment necessarily. I think it's been years of just conversations and watching entrepreneurs struggle with figuring out how to take this vision that's in their head and communicate it out. It's one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur. I mean, you know this, I'm sure. I've got this huge idea in my head. I've built it over time, or maybe I was born with it. But to get it out in front of people so they can see what's up here, it's hard. And that's what I love doing, is helping extract that from people.
That's why, as we're talking about authenticity, that's why a lot of entrepreneurs fail, is because they have this vision, and they're like, this is exactly what it looks like, and it's exciting, and it's like a Disney movie. It gets you emotional. And then they go tell the world, and they can't see it. Yeah. And so they start to say, hey, just go work a job, go do this, go do that, go be this. And people listen, and their vision diminishes. So I love that you say that. That is the hardest part, because a lot of other people can't see what we see.
It's interesting because I feel there's different phases of the entrepreneurship journey where the difficulty of expressing that is. So for an example, I remember when we first started Story, and TikTok wasn't a thing, short form video wasn't a thing. To tell people to go make a video and record content made them really uncomfortable. They're like, no, who's doing that? No one's doing that. And I saw where the future was going. I remember looking at surveys in 2016, and you would look at what people would report as their trust in institutions, governments, schools, whatever. And it would have this sharp cliff since around 2010, 2012 in their trust in institutions across the board. So you think about, what does that mean? Why does someone not trust a college degree? You think about how many people are talking about, do you really need to go to college, right? How many people don't trust government? Everyone's corrupt. It's all a scam. Whether you feel those things or not, it's just what the data shows is how people feel. So if people trust institutions less, what's that being replaced with? It's being replaced with individuals. individuals' perspectives, right? People don't follow a newspaper, they follow individual journalists. They don't go to college, they go find someone that's done it before on YouTube and learn from them. And that trend has started then and is only increasing. That was a harder sell to people before when I was first getting started with what we built. And in those moments, it was so hard to communicate because I see all of this data and all of this information, and I'm telling you the thing that needs to happen, but you don't get the broader picture. And it's hard for me to sell that to you because I don't know how to communicate it. I don't know how to share all the perspective that I have. And then as it's become a business and as we've grown to a team of almost 100 people now, which is crazy, now the communication is how do I get the people on my team to see the vision, right? How do I get them to see it? How do I get them to communicate it and communicate with their team and communicate with the clients we work with and the customers? It's a different type of problem of communicating that vision. But I think at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to be an authority in your space, you're trying to be one of those individuals that people can trust. You've got to learn that skill of communication and doing it in a way that people buy into it. And that only comes from a place of authoritative authenticity.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, I was thinking people can smell bullshit a mile away.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally.
So I want to ask a side question that I'm just curious, and I'm sure the listeners are dying to know as well. Entrepreneurs, generally, it's a part of their DNA. They're like, let's go build something, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned that this was just a side hustle for you.
Yeah.
Was that grind of let's go build a business more learned, or do you feel like that's a part of who you are?
It's funny because I feel like the word entrepreneur felt icky to me for a long time. If someone called me an entrepreneur, I'd actively recoil against it. I think if you would have called me someone who was a creative, I would have felt more inspired by that word, but also felt like I wasn't a creator. And it took me a while to come to this place where I realized that for me, entrepreneurship is a place where I feel like I can create. That's where I feel like I'm a creator. And entrepreneurship doesn't feel icky to me anymore. When someone says you're an entrepreneur, I'm like, yeah, I am an entrepreneur. But to me, all of the fun and fulfillment of being an entrepreneur comes from that process of creating, of having something up here and then turning it into a design, an app, a process, a team member that I'm coaching. All of a sudden, this thing that was an abstract, esoteric thought is now in actual reality. That feeling is so addicting to me. I think to me, it's the journey of chiseling and developing skills. I personally feel like it's only really fun to create when you feel like you're good at something. If someone asks you to make a drawing and you only feel good at drawing with crayons, that doesn't feel as fun, right? I'm like, oh man, this is a really shitty stick figure, right? But as you get better at drawing and you make more impressive things, all of a sudden that skill brings confidence. Skills bring confidence. And I think confidence is ultimately really fulfilling, right? And it enables you to go like from a place of authenticity, say, I'm good at drawing, right? The thing that a lot of entrepreneurs, I feel, especially early on, is everything you do with a stick figure drawing. So no matter what you do, you're going to feel like you're not great at it. You're always going to feel imposter syndrome. You're always going to feel like, am I actually legitimately good? And I think that's one of the struggle places of authenticity for people is I know what I want it to look like. I can't do that yet, but I also know that I can't get to there unless I do the shitty stick figure drawing. I've got to start here. And that's an interesting challenge when you're trying to be authentic and be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So for me, I know what's true authenticity. Obviously, it's what I deal with day to day. But what I love about you is what you mentioned just barely, if I heard you correctly, and correct me if I didn't, is that authenticity comes when you feel confident. So starting out, what is authenticity, right? Because you have to suck before you thrive at anything. Mm-hmm. If you go watch my first podcast, you're going to laugh at me. You're going to, who is this dude? Mm-hmm. You should have never started. But now we're here.
Yeah.
And I am more confident. Mm-hmm. And I know I can lead an efficient interview to create results for myself, the interviewer, and the audience.
Totally.
So where does authenticity begin?
Yeah, it's so chicken and egg, right? To me. But I think here's one of the ways. So let's say it's 5 years from now and you're still doing the podcast. Do you feel in 5 years the podcast is going to look different than now?
Absolutely.
Right? Maybe a different caliber of guests, right? You probably have more skills developed for podcasting and promoting the podcast and getting like how you interview. Like it will be different because you'll be different. You'll have different skills. And does that mean you're being inauthentic now by podcasting just because it'll be better in the future? I would say no, not at all. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think in the same way when we first start out anything, to stay when I started my business as one person, as that person, I didn't have something valuable to offer others because there was a bigger business out there. Like I say that out loud and that sounds dumb, but it's totally the thing that plays in our head, not just about work, about ourselves, about our relationships. We compare to other people and then we say, what I have isn't good enough. And it's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for others. And that's just wrong, right? To me. And so I think that authenticity, it comes from a place of being confident that you as an individual have value. It has to start from me as a human being have value. And then what that means in the marketplace or what that means in your relationships, you've got to kind of self-define that. But fundamentally to me, it's like, who are you as a human being? And then build from there.
Well said. Amen. It's the best way to do life.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, take out business, take out all these extra things. How do you want to live life? Mm-hmm. Be the best version of yourself and then do the extras, right?
Totally. I mean, what do you feel like? Yeah, I feel like there's this, it's interesting because we talk about it and it makes perfect sense. It's so obvious. But at the same time, I still struggle with making sure I'm authentic and showing up with confidence. I think that's human nature. Sometimes I'll watch a Tony Robbins video, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, the confidence, the authenticity, it's insane. How does he do it? And
he's doing this weird clap.
Yeah, he's doing the weird clap. Yeah, it's like, let's go to the weird clap. Right? I think it's also just important to recognize that I think authenticity and is a ever evolving thing because you're ever evolving too. You shouldn't feel any sort of shame or weakness by feeling by questioning if you're being authentic in this moment, because to me that's just a healthy exercise of who am I as a person right now.
Absolutely. So to connect my thoughts to creators, authenticity simply is a choice. Are you being authentic at this moment or are you not? And let me shine some light on that. For somebody that's listening, I bet even for me, you, wife in the background, if we ask ourselves, how could I be more authentic today? I guarantee everybody could make a list. I didn't work out. I put my hand in the cookie jar. Well, the truth is, you knew it was authentic for you to work out. You made the choice not to based upon how you felt, which was inauthentic. You wanted a cookie. You told yourself you weren't going to eat cookies anymore on Mondays. You still chose to put the hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
You chose to be unauthentic.
Yep.
Relating it to a creator sense. You made a video. You felt unauthentic. You can choose just to delete that and create an authentic video.
Totally. Yeah. I like that idea. Like it is a choice. It's totally a choice. And I think part of the reason people don't make the choice to be authentic is I think they're unaware of the choice they're making. Right? I can think of times in my life where I just did the thing because that was the thing to do. Right? I didn't have a higher awareness of self. I didn't have a higher awareness of my options. And I think when you're a creator, a lot of times you're starting from this place of, I just need to make content. And you have this idea of what good content is. But really the choice you're making is, am I going to make content that everyone else is making, or am I going to make content that's actually how I feel about a thing? One of the core values we have in our company is candid communication. The courage to say the thing that needs to be said. You have to be candid to be authentic, right? And everyone struggles with being candid at times. And we make that choice to not be authentic because we want to protect relationships. We want to protect, our identity or other people's perception of us. And by not being authentic, we do ourselves a disservice by not connecting with the people that we actually would relate to. And in business, that's essential. Like you've got to be speaking the language of the people you want to work with because that attracts those people to you. A magnet, right? Absolutely. The people that struggle the most with content creation are the ones that choose to not be authentic because they only connect with people that actually have no interest in who that person is.
Absolutely. So 2 things came to mind there is you mentioned essentially evolving, right? Evolving can either go one of two ways, positive or negative. Evolution is a process. We start here. We started as gorillas per se, and now we're human, right?
Yeah, totally.
You started from crappy videos, and now you're a multi-millionaire making movies. You know, we all start somewhere, or you can be the really fit guy and end up being the really fat guy.
Totally, yeah.
The other aspect that you mentioned was candid communication. What creates awareness? And it simply is curiosity. And that starts by questions being asked and conversations being held. That can be with yourself. You can ask yourself questions. You can have a conversation with yourself. That can be a spouse, business partner. Just have the conversation. Be truthful with yourself. Say what needs to be said and stop lying to yourself.
So when you're talking to entrepreneurs and you're talking about this idea of like curiosity, it's one of the things I found, at least to me, it's often people are curious or they're not curious. It's hard to breed into people. But I think part of what you do is help people recognize that about themselves. When you think about curiosity, how does someone develop that curiousness about what's going on around them?
So it depends on what the goal is, right? If I'm working with an entrepreneur and they're trying to develop their sales skills, a lot of entrepreneurs will pitch too fast. For example, client and sales representative come together to have a conversation. Usually the sales rep will say, "This is your problem. Man, I'm not making sense right now." Client comes in with a problem. Client tells the sales representative what the problem is. Sales rep makes a proposal based upon that. I first asked, did you fully understand that participant or client or whatever you're calling your client? They wanted to solve this problem. Did you understand why? Because there's a problem and there's a solution. How are you going to fill that gap? You need to understand the client enough to fill that gap. And if you don't, your sales are going to come down because you're not connecting with them.
Yeah. It's without understanding people's motivations in the sales process. You're saying the sales process, if you don't understand the why, you just understand the problem, you can't really speak to the solution. Or maybe you will, but you'll miss a big, giant part of it.
Yeah. We want to start with why. You need to understand. Okay, maybe you're dealing with finances. Why does the participant want to make a change or the client want to make a change in their finances? Just because? Or is it because they saw their parents lose 50% of their retirement in 2008 and they're scared of doing the same?
Yep.
Why?
Right.
You need to find that. And that's for any conversation in life. It's always a negotiation. Every interaction you have, you're always looking to get it to a result, right? Even any conversation, there's a goal at the end of every conversation. And if you don't understand enough, you can't solve it.
Yeah. I think about when we're selling our content stuff. If we just said to people, "So you want us to edit your videos?" The problem isn't that they need their videos edited. The problem is that they want to get their message shared, right?
Absolutely.
And then it's, why do you want your message shared? That's just everyone's got kind of a different motivation there. The nonprofits want to do something different than the salespeople, different than the influencers, different than the CEOs, different than the corporate businesses. That why ultimately ties back to why they make any decision. And I think if we didn't understand that in our sales process, we would totally miss the mark.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
And
love what you said.
Again, it comes down, you asked, how do I inspire understanding and curiosity in sales reps or individuals? Again, if I'm working with a sales representative, it's, hey, based upon the information you gave that person, could they have went and got that online? Yes. Okay, because as we talked off camera, the way sales used to work is sales rep, information, solution. Now it's information, sales rep, solution. If you're on a call, put yourself before the information, right? Yeah. Be personable, be a person.
Yep.
Ask some questions, build that trusting connection, and then give the information.
Yeah. No, I think people underestimate how powerful authenticity is especially because of this AI wave that's coming. So 2 thoughts. First is just a funny story. So I've got this marketing mentor of mine. I think he's a great guy. And he offered to let me write a blog for his website, which is great. Built some backlinks, built some credibility. So I was like, I'll write an article for you. Now, I was super short on time. Life's busy. And I was like, I'm really good at ChatGPT. I'm really good. So I'm like, I'm going to just chat GPT this sucker. I've got a whole prompt strategy. I'm going to make it sound like me, feel like me, write this, and then send it over to him. So 20 minutes later, I've got a great blog, send it over to him. I'm like, check, done. And then he emails me back the next day and he's like, hey, Connor, loved your blog. Lots of great actionable info. But with how much is happening in AI, in order to really build trust and authority, I need you to share more of your personal perspectives in this article. Bring some stories from your day-to-day. And obviously ChatGPT doesn't know my customers and specific wins and experiences, right? And so I'm like, duh, why would I have just ChatGPT'd this, right? So I rewrote the whole thing. It took me way longer, but it's a really good article. And it's because I bring all of this personal perspective, stories that happen with our specific clients and people we worked with and things I've seen. And all of a sudden this tactical information became way more real and applicable and trustworthy because now there was lived experience happening amidst all the tactical information. And I think that this whole idea of you can't just have the information's not enough. People can go get the information anywhere. The problem is not that people are lacking information. The problem is that they don't have someone telling them this is the thing you need among that information, right?
Absolutely.
20 years ago, that wasn't the case, right? You got to go to the library, check out a book, right? You would take so much work to get the information, right? But it's totally the opposite problem now. The problem is we have so much competing information. How do you actually filter it down? And AI will do that to a point, but AI can only do that to a point as much as it has accessibility into quality input data, right? And until AI can touch our minds and every message on our phone, it's not going to be able to have all of that context to give the right filtering. And I think that the idea of a salesperson or an entrepreneur or anyone that's involved in communicating anything needs to recognize that part of what you've got to do is filter down the wide accessibility of information to the actually actionable and relevant stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I want to take it back a little bit more. Keep hitting my mic.
Do it.
I want to know.
A little beat,
Yeah, exactly. Man, maybe I got to connect you to my buddy Parker. He's a beatboxer.
Oh, is he
He's
really?
Really good.
He's
a podcaster as well. But anyways, I want to bring this back to you. We're talking about a lot of authenticity right now. Mm-hmm. Usually an authentic person experiences inauthenticity. You're really inspired and moved by authenticity, obviously for good reason. It benefits your personal life, I can only imagine. I'm sure your wife's grateful for that, and I'm sure your company's grateful for that. Did you ever struggle with authenticity?
I mean, totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, I talked a little bit earlier about the imposter syndrome of being someone calling me an entrepreneur. This weird thing where I remember we had maybe 30 people on the team at that point, and I was, oh my gosh, there's 30 families that are dependent on our company doing well to provide for themselves. That was a really weighty moment for me, and then I had this realization, I'm not a CEO. Like, I'm not an entrepreneur. What? I had this, it was like this really weird disassociation. I had times, especially in my mid-20s, which I say mid-20s, I'm 50, but I'm 31. I'm 31. Not 32 yet, 31.
Wow, you're old.
I know, dude, it's crazy. No, but I remember in my mid-20s, I had this big existential crisis, and everything felt inauthentic. You know, you go through these existential crises, and you all of a sudden lose what's right and wrong, what's true and not true, what's me and not me, what's inherited and what's actually me autonomously choosing. Right. And when that all becomes upside down, you then have to figure out, okay, what actually is authentic. And to me, you know, I love what you said, authenticity is a choice. For me, I felt like I had to just make as many choices as possible and experiment. I just had to keep trying stuff and figure out, does this feel right? Does this feel like me? Does this not feel like me? What kind of relationships do I want to have? Right? How do I want to spend my time on the weekends? How do I want to spend my time in the workday? And I felt like I couldn't try enough things until, you know, stuff started to feel authentic. All of a sudden I would try a thing. I would do digital marketing. And it was like, I'm getting into flow states here and finding authenticity. And for if there's anyone that's going through those existential crises where they're feeling so inauthentic and I don't even know what feeling authentic means, one of the things that I've found is a feeling that tells me I'm being authentic is I find a flow state. When I do something and I find that I can keep doing it and not think about me doing it and lose track of time doing it.
True presence.
Yeah, true presence. It's just like I'm here doing this thing. And when I'm feeling inauthentic, I find myself constantly doubting my motivation for being there, doing that thing. And that's where I have to usually get curious. And I think there's still times where I find myself doing stuff where I'm like, is this actually me wanting to do this? Or is this me feeling obligated to do this? And then I have to make a choice of, is this authentic to my broader goal that I do this thing that I don't want to be doing, but is important for my broader authenticity goal that I push through it? Or is this a choice I'm making to do a thing that I don't need to be doing? So there's some nuance there. But I've definitely felt times of inauthenticity.
Absolutely. Well, your adventure is what creates the purpose, right? Without the hardships and the inauthenticity and the bad habits and the bad behaviors, I would have never found coaching. I would have never found podcasting. So I love that you mentioned adventure. And that was in your mid-20s when you went through that adventure.
Yeah.
How long do you feel like you were going along that adventure before you start to feel like, I got this?
I was probably 28, 29. It was probably from when I was 24, 25 to 28, 29. That's where it just felt, I'd try anything and then wonder, is that what happiness is? Is that what a good life is? I think it was just a lot of trying stuff to decide, how do I actually want my life? Which I think everyone should do. I think it's important to looking back. I think I probably should have given myself more grace and not been so hard with myself. Everything isn't actually my thing. I was just figuring stuff out, experimenting. And I think we were talking earlier about how you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs in their early 20s, and they're all really self-aware of, what do people think of me? Am I making the impact I want to make? And I think that everyone's got to give themselves a little more grace. It's okay to not have your shit figured out. It really is. And I do think that it's authenticity is a choice, but it's a choice you practice. And it's something that you can get better at if you find yourself frequently being inauthentic.
Absolutely. So for you, usually people transform based upon one of two reasons.
Yeah.
Either one, there's so much pain that they're inspired to change, or they just have a ton of inspiration and they just want to go make something happen.
Oh, man.
Which one was it for you?
Man, of those two, it's hard to say it was one or the other. The immediate thing that I felt, for sure a pain element. For sure a pain element of just, I remember, in some ways, entrepreneurship, as much as I had an aversion to the word, really saved me from a dark place. I remember in the early days of the company just having such just awful depression. I'm going to therapists, I'm going to psychiatrists, I'm on antidepressants, I'm even suicidal at moments. And it was just dark, right? And I think that part of what entrepreneurship gave me was here's a thing I'm good at, and being good at that thing and helping people with the thing that I'm good at, while maybe not in the grand macro scope of the universe is all that important, felt meaningful, right? And I really do think that we as human beings have to create our own meaning. The meaning that we give life is the one that we give it. And in that moment, just that little bit of feeling like, hey, this person needs help doing a thing, and they paid me money to do this thing, and so I've got an obligation to do this thing even though I'm hella depressed, and then I do that thing, and they're grateful for it. That was enough of a spark to kind of give me a little bit of a different direction. And so I think for me, it was definitely a pain for sure of I'm existentially lost and life's meaningless, but I'll just do this. And it kind of got me on this path. And the other thing that it wasn't part of your two kind of options there, but another thing for me was I got people around me that believed in me. And I think that one of the things I struggled with was hurt people. And when I was existentially lost and in pain, I hurt other people. And people hurt me. And I think that when you're in a lot of pain, it's very easy to be cynical. The world's, the world's fucked up and I'm fucked up and nothing's fair and everything's wrong and why are we even trying? It's just, it feeds that pessimism just kind of puts you in a place where you feel powerless to change the world. And then it's why even change yourself? Anything you do to make your own situation better is going to ultimately not make anything better for anyone else. And I think I got more people around me that said, hey, you're good at this thing. Or, hey, you're a good person. Or, hey, I believe in your potential. And gave me opportunities that I felt I didn't necessarily deserve, but they gave me an opportunity. And then I'd go do those things, and all of a sudden, I would feel good about myself. Which sounds so crazy now, but I would no longer be in that dark, depressive, I'm feeling worthless place. And all of a sudden, I have something to offer people. I think it took me a while to feel like, that those things being market driven. Here's a skill or service you're paying for, and I'm feeling good about the service. I've had this weird thing existentially of, if this is a business thing, then I can't actually find meaning and value in that because that's a superficial, non-real thing. But I think what I've found is it's not actually about the money, and it's not actually about the marketplace of it. It's about skills. I think skills ultimately bring confidence, and whether they're market related or not, those skills bring confidence. And I think that confidence is the foundation of authenticity in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. I love that. And thanks for being vulnerable. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you started to overcome this by going on a journey, trying different things, figuring out what you liked, what you didn't like, figuring out, ooh, this feels good. I like serving people this way. Ooh, I really like this skill. I'm going to pursue this. And you got around the right people. Mm-hmm. Was there any other specific things that you did to get you out of that pit?
I don't know where it came from, but it was just this totally stupid, dumbass, optimistic grit. It was just I don't know. It's just this kind of it's not backed by data. It's probably backed by just my reptile brain of things are going to work out. It's just going to work out. And I don't know if that was just how I was raised. I don't know if it's just biology or what, but I think even when things got dark, I had this fundamental assumption that things would get better. And I think that was an important thing too. And I don't know how to instill that in another person other than to say, I really do believe in everyone's potential to make a situation better. You read people, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He talked about, the concentration camps in World War II. And he said that, even in that situation, you can find meaning, right? And you can find a reason to keep going. In the most dire and horrific situation, right? A Holocaust camp for Jews in World War II. What more of a horrible situation can you think of and still find meaning in amidst all that death, all that misery, that complete lack of hope? And I think that's I don't know. I think that if you're gonna try to do anything as insane as entrepreneurship, or even just as insane as creating meaning for yourself in life, you have to have this just grit and this fundamental assumption that things will work out in the end.
Absolutely. I love that. Thanks for sharing. So something came to mind here, and I may have heard this wrong, but I think you said, I don't know how to instill this into other people. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
So long story short is you can't.
Yeah. Right. Right. Totally. People have to choose it.
So, and the reason I mention this is because we look at different terrain in this world. People have homes where a flood's going to come in, or a fire, or something to deal with Mother Nature, and it's going to wipe the house physical structure away. Those people decide to rebuild there. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, the tornado comes and just wipes it out again. Mm-hmm. Guess what they do? They rebuild it. Mm-hmm. It's because this is their home, right? And it simply comes down to belief. This is where they were raised. This is what they feel as home. Now, as humans, we have physical childhood houses and new homes, but we also have emotional and thoughts and beliefs that are home, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
That even if it doesn't serve them, they go back to their home, their thoughts, the emotions that make them feel peace.
Yep.
Even if it's not peace.
Yep.
And it simply comes down to choice, is that was your home, right? Mm-hmm. You felt peace knowing that it was going to be all right. Which tells me that was probably a mindset that you had as a child.
Yeah, it had to be.
That everything's going to be all right. And that's why you went to it when you were in your pit as an adult. Mm-hmm. And naturally, it sounds like you transformed that to find even better thoughts and emotions so that you can be your authentic self, leading to a more fulfilled life. Now you're helping other people do the same.
I hope I am. I mean, I love what you said. It is that whole, why do people keep building the house when there's a storm there? And one of my favorite things I've heard is the idea of water just keeps going in the river that's made for it, right? Water doesn't simply jump out of the stream and create a new river, right? Water is going to follow gravity. It's going to follow where there is a place for water to flow. And if you want water to flow a different way, then you've got to dig a new trench or you got to dam the river, right? And I think that human nature is much that way. We will always take the path of least resistance. Change is so difficult. And unless we opt in deliberately to change the direction of the river, it will not change. Like, we have to force it to change.
Absolutely. People are like, oh, there's a caution sign.
Yeah.
I better go back in the river.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, life's starting to get a little bit better. I better jump over and go back.
Yeah, it's crazy how we get afraid of it getting better. Like, it really is. I mean, I've had these phases for sure as stories grown where it's, does it deserve to get better? Am I good enough for it to get better? And I think that's a good thing to feel. I think those are the stretching moments. And I think that, I think we, we grow to the ceiling that we set for ourselves, right? We're all goldfish. Goldfish could get a lot bigger, but we put them in little jars, right? We got to regularly, I think, break down a faulty belief system. I definitely by no means think I've arrived at some place of enlightenment. For me, I've got a whole lot more work to do to break down my next set of limiting beliefs, right? And as a human being, I'll set them because setting those beliefs is a home. I love that whole analogy you gave. And I think I've got to break those down and move the house on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about this, and this gets me so passionate, I don't know why it moves me to emotion, is the fact that we can be our best selves right now, but we'll never truly achieve our best self in this world. We have a limited amount of years. It's virtually impossible to learn everything that you're capable of learning in this world. That's just the truth. I'm not the best at cars. I could go learn how to do cars, but after I learn how to make cars, I got to learn something new about that, right?
Right.
With technology. It's virtually impossible to actually achieve your quote-unquote best self. That's why, to me, authenticity is so important, is because I'm going to show up as my best self right now.
Yep.
I'm very well aware that I'm not going to learn everything I can learn and achieve all the things that I'll achieve. That doesn't mean I can't strive for it. And naturally, that's what makes me Braden Belknap, is the fact that I'm going to keep moving this needle forward as far as possible. And by the end of the time I'm put in the ground, I'll be happy with where I end up.
Totally.
Simply because I was okay becoming my authentic self. And my authentic self is the fact that I know I'm not perfect. And I'm confident with that.
Yeah.
But I'm also confident with where I can create value for myself and others.
Yeah. It's authenticity is it's so funny because it's absolutely the right and practical thing to do. And it's also so difficult because authenticity forces vulnerability. Vulnerability, therefore, it shows a place where you can be hurt, right? Showing vulnerability it feels you're exposed, right? And you have to go through this practice, I think, of just getting comfortable with that idea of, hey, by being authentic, I will be vulnerable. By being vulnerable, I might get hurt. But eventually, that also becomes armor. Because as soon as you're willing to say, I am putting myself in a position that I can be hurt, and then someone's being hurt, and then surviving that, well, now what else can you survive, right? Like, it breeds grit. And I think that it's practical from so many places. It's practical from a individual spiritual sense. It's practical from a business and strategy sense. It's practical from like a marketing and sales sense. It's practical from a management and leadership sense. And I think that's why we talk about it so much, is because it's so foundational to all these things. And then we talk about it so much to the point where people are, oh, it's just the buzzwords, like authenticity. Yeah, I know everyone's talking about it. But yeah, we're talking about it this often and this much. And because it's so foundational to everything you do, and we have to remind ourselves of it, right? We can't just assume we've reached it. I like what you said about this aspiration of you're never going to hit your actual best version of Braden, because it's, we don't, but it's part of the fun, right? I'm never going to be perfect Connor, but I'm hoping that I can be better than Connor yesterday. And I'm hoping I can be better than Connor a year ago. And I'm hoping that I don't, retract to Connor 7 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Love that.
And that's where the evolution comes into touch, right? And it's like a video game. Who beats a video game and then keeps playing that video game for a year?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Dude.
You know how to do it. It's boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
You keep growing because it's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah.
The emotion, fear, and excitement is practically the same thing. But the difference that will always either move people backwards or forwards is simply their thoughts. It's cliche, but you truly do become what you tell yourself you'll become.
Totally. Yeah.
If you're in a pit, I'm not saying just go speak it. Like, hey, universe, I want $1 million and no. Feel it.
Yes.
But how do you feel it? You take action. You know what? Today, I'm going to work out because I want to be the strongest person that I'm capable of becoming. Mm-hmm. Go work out. But 10 minutes before you go work out, you probably won't feel like it. But then you're going to work out and you're going to feel great. You're going to start to attach pleasure to the growth process. And then you're going to let your past self go naturally.
Yeah. Have you, so there's this book I love called Sapiens. Have you heard of it?
I haven't, no.
So it's by Gospel, man. I love this book. It starts from Neanderthals, and it's a brief history of humankind up until the modern day. It's an amazing book. And it talks about just being human. Like, what does it mean to be a human being? But through this lens of history. I love it. And it actually inspired my first tattoo. So it's this evolutionary tree here.
I love that.
And this is actually from Charles Darwin's journal. When he came up with the idea of natural selection, he got his journal and he drew this, and right next to it, he wrote the words, "I think." So, I mean, evolution and natural selection isn't just, did humans come from monkeys? It's foundational to medicine and our understanding of bacteria, our understanding of biology. So much of the modern world of science is built off of this. And what's crazy is when he came up with this idea, he wrote "I think" next to it. Think about when you say the words "I think," you're like, "I think." It's like a question, right? And what I love about this idea, and you keep talking about evolution, is just so much of evolution, our personal evolution, the evolution of our ideas, is like, I think. You never know for sure. It's always an experiment, right? Even nature doesn't know. Now, part of the idea of natural selection is, well, the beak's going to get a little bigger and let's see if it breaks the acorn better, right? And then let's get the wings a little wider, but maybe that won't actually help it fly better, right? Nature is experimenting. And I think if we want to evolve, part of what we have to do is just bake into the equation failure. Bake into the equation that we're going to get it wrong. And sometimes with authenticity, people overshare or they get overly vulnerable and then they're hurt and they're like, "Oh, I'm never doing that again." Right? Or they're like, "All right, I'm going to work out. I'm going to be fit. I'm going to choose this for myself. I'm going to go to the gym every single day." And then they do 6 days out of 7. And they're like, "This isn't for me. I can't do it." Or entrepreneurship. They're like, "I started a business that failed. I loved it. I was so passionate about it and it just crumbled." And they're like, "That's not for me." But maybe that's just like a failed experiment. And I think if we treat these things in our life as experiments, it makes it easier to be authentic too. Because now all of a sudden it's not like my identity is tied up into the success of one thing. My identity is tied into the idea of I experiment. I try stuff. And sometimes it works and most of the time it doesn't. But I think that evolution is facilitated by us allowing experimentation in our life.
You said it. So failure is not a destination. It's simply a lesson for your next adventure.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
And evolution, you said it. We make mistakes and we keep on going. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
You want to be the best possible version of yourself, that alpha male or that alpha female. Never give up.
Yeah.
That's it. Just don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep showing up.
Fail fast. Yeah. Move fast and break shit. That was Facebook's motto forever. Move fast and break shit. Because it was the only way you're going to learn is if we break stuff. Like, the breaking of the thing will teach us more about the thing.
They're still breaking shit. It just costs them millions of dollars each time they break.
That's true. They're breaking elections. They're breaking tons of stuff. And that's the thing is I think that any sort of advancement on a societal level or an individual level is always accompanied by failure, right? I could list all of my failures, and it's not even necessarily like some giant failure, though I've had those. There's plenty of just daily failures. Sure. I was late coming here to the podcast. That's a failure. Authentic me wants to show up on time, right?
Sure.
Failure, right? Or I get dual booked on a meeting and I let that happen, and now I've got to fail to show up to a thing. Like, those aren't big things, but they're failures, right? They have a ripple effect. And I don't know. Like, but I just have to give myself grace and be like, all right, we'll try it different tomorrow.
That's it.
That's it.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
It's really that simple, and that's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
So for podcasting, I'm going to get these statistics change all the time. I don't know for word, but I'm pretty sure over 90% of podcasts stop after their third episode.
Which is crazy. Crazy.
Just to be in the top 10%, get to episode 4.
Yeah.
And by the way, producing a podcast is a lot of work.
Totally.
A lot of people get on and they're like, ooh, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is a good podcast. Hours go into each episode.
Yeah. So much time. Which
Which is a good thing, because the ones that don't give up are the ones that deserve to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just never give up, you deserve to succeed. I'll be honest, it might take 10 years.
Yeah.
Or maybe you build the right resource, or you have a right resource and you're gifted that. Let's be real. Okay, rich kids, whatever you want to call them. What's it called? What's the word?
Nepo babies?
No, not just rich babies. Privilege.
Yeah.
Anybody's going to take advantage of privilege. Like, let's be real.
Of course. Well, I mean, think about lottery winners.
Take it.
Right? You think about someone that wins a lottery, right? And what's the stat? 95% of them lose all of that money within the first 2 years or something. I'm totally wrong on the stat, right? I don't know the time frames, but it's something like that. The principle is part of the wealth or the success or any of that comes from all the lessons learned with the failures.
Yes.
And if you get a shortcut, you miss out on those. And that doesn't mean you can't learn them a different way, right? But I think for most people, that is the way you earn it, right? You learn through the failures, and that teaches you the skill set to do whatever the achievement is, right? If you handed me a podcast tomorrow with 10 million listeners, I would burn that audience. Like, I would burn that audience, because the skill set to build a podcast to 10 million people is not a skill set that I have. It's not. That's not what I've built my skills around. Doesn't mean I couldn't learn it out. I could learn it. 100% I could learn it. But if you just handed it to me tomorrow, I think I would be a poor steward of that. It's just, you got to earn that stuff.
Absolutely. And it simply just comes by having grit and not giving up. And it's really that simple. So let's pivot here for a second. So we understand your story. You obviously have gone through a lot of wins and a lot of losses, and you kept pushing forward, which has allowed you to create your own authenticity, and most importantly, an authority with your authenticity, right? And now you're teaching others how to do the same. So how does one start to build an audience through their authentic self while creating an authority?
Yeah. So, part of what we do with Story is we help people create authentic, authoritative content. So, when I'm talking to someone and coaching them of like, what's the content you should be making? The first is being really clear on your why. Like, why are you creating content? Do you understand your fundamental motivation for that? And then connected to that is, what are the topics that you're trying to be perceived as authoritative in, right? So, if I was, let's say, trying to build a personal brand around parenting, that would be a very inauthentic thing for me because I don't have kids, right? So that's a mistake, right? And so you got to figure what's the stuff that you authentically have a perspective on. That doesn't mean you have to be a PhD in it, right? But what you authentically have interest and passion and a perspective on. The amount of times I've thought about how to parent my non-existent child, zero. I don't have a perspective to offer there in a meaningful way. So I'm not going to go and talk about that, right? I'm going to talk about content creation. I'm going to talk about social media algorithm platforms. I'm going to talk about technology development. I'm going to talk about AI. Those are the things I'm going to talk about, right? Because I have a perspective on those. Other people aren't going to talk about those things. And so you've got to be really clear on why you're making content, the topics that you want to be talking about, and then you've actually got to sit down and force yourself to record the videos. You talk about going to the gym and the decision and the choice to show up and actually go and go to the gym. So many people choose to not share what they know. They've got knowledge. They've got perspective. They've got actionable, good information. And then they're like, I don't feel like recording today. I don't have time for that. And then all of a sudden they are not able to be an authoritative person in their space because they decided that they were not going to show up and actually make that content. And so that's what we'd focus on with people is if you get clear on why and the topics, you already got all the info up here. Now you just got to practice talking to the camera. And then, our team makes you look pretty. That's not the part you got to worry about. You just got to worry about actually saying what's on your mind.
Absolutely. So as a process, I mean, I'm sure you have the experience in it all. Do you work with brand new people sharing their messages and people have been sharing their message for a while?
Yeah, all across the board. So it's funny. One of the features that we built in our app is AI generated scripts, right? And it's funny because you can look at who uses those and who doesn't, right? So, when people sign up for our app, they choose the topics, then we give them suggestions of content to create, right? With the assumption everyone's going to go and add their own flavor to it. But I find it's easier to brainstorm when you've got a starting point.
Everybody needs that.
Everybody needs that, right?
It breeds, as we've talked about, awareness.
Right.
Of, these are some things.
Right. And what's crazy, too, is you don't know how much you know about the things that feel natural to you, right?
I love that you say that.
So I feel so, a ton about podcasting, obviously, right? But if someone just said, I need you to go and write down 20 things on the spot, get on stage and go, most people, maybe not you, will be like, okay, but what part? Give me if this is a sandbox, I need borders. That breeds creativity. And so the idea is for those people that know a lot, I mean, I'm thinking about a doctor, for example. You should be making content. And they're like, about what? About what? You're a damn doctor. There's so much you can talk about. There's so many things that people would find interesting, right? But it's also natural and day to day to them that they don't recognize that they have things to offer. So that's why we built the AI ideas. But then you talk to people who've been creating content for a while, they don't need it. It's training wheels to them. For them, it's, I already know exactly what I want to say, how to say it, how often I want to say it. I just need someone to edit my content and manage it for me. And those people are it's different for them, right? So we help everyone in between because I want to give tools to the people that want to create or the people that need help or they need a little bit of sandbox. But I think there's also people that I don't need the sandbox anymore because I've developed this skill now where not only do I know a lot about the thing, but I know a lot about how to talk about and format the thing for the place I want to show it.
Absolutely. So what I hear from you is how to breathe authoritative authenticity simply by sharing your story. What else? How does somebody else say, well, let's just start with the new beginners. Somebody's 20 years old.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of studies, whether that's coaching or in car mechanics or health and fitness. And they're confident in their knowledge, their information. Now they just need to go share it with the world.
Yeah.
How does somebody build their authority online in an authentic way?
That's so I think we've talked a lot today about from the individual and almost spiritual relationship self-place of authority, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about technical authority,
I love
right?
it.
So we all have used Google many times, right? And you go do a Google search and you get 10 results on that first page, right? Google is ranking those results, right? And they're ranking it by what Google thinks is the most relevant and authoritative source, right? If I Googled something about how do I get rid of a headache, and it gave me an article from a really sketchy website with no sort of accreditation from any sort of body that was a random website that got no traffic as the first result, we all would call that a poor Google search experience, right? That's a bad thing. What we're looking for in a Google search is we want a high authoritative website with quality information that's actually the thing I'm looking for. So how does Google know that? What mechanisms does Google use to choose that? Well, The number one factor in a Google search, consistent across everyone that ranks on those top 10 results, is a high amount of backlinks. So in case anyone on the audience doesn't know what a backlink is, a backlink is how many websites are pointing back to your website from the other pages, right? So if I have a website and no one else talks about me on the internet, I'm low authority. But if I have a website that other websites talk about me, I'm a higher authority. If I have a website that I have other websites who are really high authority talking about me on the internet, then I'm higher authority, right? Literally the internet, this network is, you've heard the saying, your network is your net worth, right? Your network on the internet is your visibility to other people. It is your authority. Your network is your authority online, right? So if you think about that from a technical perspective,
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Get on podcasts to build your backlinks, by the way, you guys.
Totally. Easiest way to build your backlinks, get on podcasts, right? And which is, again, the whole network effect, right? If you go do podcasts and then you have guests that are doing podcasts and then they're going and doing podcasts, those are all backlinks that are just raising everyone's authority, right? From a technical perspective. So what does that mean in terms of social content? Well, the content you create should be high authority. What does that mean? It should be shareable. It should be something that people engage with. It should be something that people want to collaborate with you on. Because those things, shares, likes, comments, are network effects that says, hey, the more saves this has, the more shares this has, the more added to stories it has, the more authoritative it is. The more it's engaged with, the more there's conversations in it, it's more authoritative, right? Because there's obviously social interest there. And on a social network, that's a high authority indicator. The other thing to keep in mind is, how do any of these platforms make money, right? When we look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, these platforms all make money from your attention, right? It's the attention economy. So what does that mean? It means the longer I'm on the platform, the longer I'm paying attention to content on the platform, the more ads I see. The more ads I see, the more money they make on me as a user, right? All the data they collect is just so they can sell it to advertisers. So if you want to be seen on these platforms, the question is how do you help the platforms with their goal? If their goal is to increase the time spent by people, you need to be creating content that increases the time they spend. So if I create a video that holds someone's attention and makes them want to stay on the platform longer, then I am going to help the platform with their goals. So what do? They show my content to more people. Right? If I create a video that has a half a second watch through rate, people are like, no, beginning's weird. It's all weird colors. And they scroll past it. Well, the platform's, we're not going to recommend that anymore. Right? But if I say something interesting, helpful, insightful, the platform's like, oh man, we got to be sharing that. We got to be sharing that as much as we can. And now you get more of that organic reach you're not paying for. Paid reach, organic reach. Organic reach is reach you do not pay for. So that content then gets recommended to more people's accounts. So if I'm an entrepreneur, early 20s, someone that's or early 40s, and I'm starting a new project, what am I going to do? I'm going to create authentic content, meaning authentically my perspective. I'm going to create it in a way that's attention grabbing, meaning it speaks to my audience. So that's topics. What are the topics I'm creating around? If I'm a car mechanic, was an example you used, then I'm going to talk about the things that people that are interested in car mechanics care about. You know, how to change this, how to do this, what to watch for, when should you change your tires, right? Share information that speaks to a problem or a question people have. Create that content, share it, and then the platforms will start recommending that to people that have potential interest in that thing. You do that consistently, and you teach the platforms that this is someone worth paying attention to. Do you watch any TV shows? Are you a TV person at all?
Being vulnerable and authentic. I will binge TV shows.
Yeah.
So for example, when I start one, if I really like it, I have a hard time stopping.
Yeah.
So I just avoid starting.
Okay. Totally respect that. So I like TV too. And I'm the same way. I've been watching Band of Brothers. I haven't watched it before. First time. Incredible show. So I'm watching Band of Brothers. If I watch Band of Brothers and they only had one episode and they're like, Okay, the next episode, it's going to come out in 6 years, like Attack on Titan style. If you ever watch Attack on Titan, anime gang, what's up? Like if a show only comes out once every 6 years, I stop caring. I'm not going to wait around 6 years. I want to watch the next thing. I want this to be a regular thing in my routine. In the same way, the platforms understand that if someone that posts consistently will develop a relationship with their audience. And so they want to recommend people that post consistently more because they know that that's going to increase watch times. So if you don't post consistently, you are not teaching the platform that you can develop a relationship with your audience, so they stop recommending you as aggressively. So if I post only once a month, I'm not going to see the benefits of that compounding relationship building factor if I would be posting consistently. And so if I understand my topic, consistently post content around it, do so with my authentic perspective that's unique to me, I will start to find growth on these platforms, and I will start to build this network effect of authority, right? Authority is that consistency, that relationship with the audience, and the platforms will help you build it.
Absolutely. So I would love your perspective on, so I see essentially 3 different types of content creation options, right? There's natural content creation. People are probably going to ask, go look at Brad Lee's content. He doesn't structure anything. He just goes for it, right?
Dropping bombs.
Yep, dropping bombs. His podcast. He does long form video, right?
He does, yeah.
And then there's short form.
Yep.
I'd love for you to speak to 2 types of entrepreneurs. One, people just starting, because it can be overwhelming.
Totally.
It's like, man, I got to make natural content, short form, long form. It's like, how the hell do I do this?
Yep.
And then there's people that have been doing it for a while. Where should they put their focus?
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to speak to current times and what you see the future to be.
Totally. Okay. So if I am a new entrepreneur and I'm debating, okay, what kind of content do I start creating? I would say start super simple. I would recommend, it's very industry specific, right? So I would generally say for most people, if you can only choose one and you're just starting off, go to TikTok. Why? TikTok has the most aggressive recommendation algorithm, right? So TikTok, more than any other platform, is going to show your content to people that don't follow you already. And so I would say start there. I also think that TikTok is the next generation of social platforms. And so I think what you'll find is people that spend time there will be if people spent time on Instagram 10 years ago or Facebook 15 years ago, right? You're just going to start building a network capital there that will pay dividends long into the future. So I feel like that's probably place number 1 I'd start. There's some industries where I'd say don't do that, do LinkedIn. If you're B2B, go to LinkedIn for sure. LinkedIn's killer for social content. Instagram as well, I think is really good. Facebook has its place too, but I think those 3 are where I would focus for short form. And then I would say YouTube for long form. No one else is better than YouTube. TikTok's trying, but they're not going to do it. You got to go to YouTube. And I think that idea of natural content, I think what you're talking about there is content I can make on my phone on my own, right?
Driving, whatever the case is.
Yeah, kind of like just raw in the moment kind of thing. It's I don't have this nice studio setup we do in here. I'm making something just on my phone, selfie cam style. That content's great. That content does really well right now. We talked about earlier, there's this whole distrust of institutions. It's been happening for 12 years, 13 years, and it just keeps happening. What that means is people are looking for individuals to trust. And so the selfie cam stuff, you don't need to be in a newsroom to share your thoughts on what's going on in the world. Take the selfie cam, and if people find your perspective interesting, valuable, helpful, then that will be rewarded. And if you find you're posting stuff and no one cares, then you practice, right? You're not going to go and deadlift 300 pounds the first day at the gym, right? You got to get better and practice, and then you'll find that you develop the skills from experimentation. So I would say new people, 0 budget, go start making TikTok videos, right? And if TikTok's not your platform, go do it on Instagram. If Instagram's not your platform, go do it on LinkedIn. I would recommend choosing one, the Gary V's of the world, to say go on everything. It's like, cool, Gary Vee's got a giant marketing team of hundreds of people. Like, he's doing speeches every day. He has no problem getting enough content and having plenty of hands to help out with it. So yeah, go to every platform. But you're by yourself. Social media is not a quick ROI thing. So choose one and be consistent with that one. And when you're consistent with that one, you'll develop the skills to go and replicate it to another place. So that's what I'd say for the entry level person. Then there's the people that have created consistently, but they are finding that they're stretched thin on time. So they're like, I know I need to be doing this still, but all of a sudden I've got new fires in my projects. I've got places I want to be spending my time other than this. For those people, I would say that's where you need to start delegating your content creation. Who you delegate to then matters a lot because you got to keep it cheap, right? You can't going to go hire a whole full-time editor likely. That's expensive. So you're going to want to like look VAs. You want to look at companies like ours, Story. You're going to want to look at, people that might be willing to part-time, project basis, do stuff, Fiverr, that kind of thing. And then there's the upper echelon of people that are, I need to make a crap ton of content, a ton of content. And that's what the Gary Vee is, where I'm hiring outside people. I've got some inside people. I've got videographers, and that's just a whole different tier. I think like that tier is where the vast minority of people go. And I think that those people, when you look at them, don't be convinced that you have to create like them to be a successful creator. I think that the stat was 10% of all social media users actually post and create content on even like a semi-regular basis, like once or twice a year. 10%. So the fact that you even create a video once a month is putting you in the upper threshold of users. So don't deceive yourself that there's already so much content no one's going to care. The platforms there was an article literally a couple months ago. The platforms are trying to find every way to get people to create content because they are like, we need more of our people creating content, right? So the platforms have every reason to promote your content and give you a shot, but you got to decide to actually go and create.
I love that. Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, they're like, I mean, it's something they actively worry about. What happens if everyone just stops creating? Ultimately, all of us creating content for the platforms have the power, right? If we all decided, boycott that, forget it, they're dead, right? That's not going to happen. But we really overestimate how much content other people are making, and it's really not that as many as you think. And then you asked about YouTube and long form. I think that the thing that's a little bit different about YouTube than the other platforms, TikTok's starting to be this way though, is that it is a search engine. People come looking for a specific question they want an answer to, right? And so when you're thinking about Instagram, TikTok, for most things, Facebook, they have these recommendation feeds where you just get on and you start browsing, and then there's topics you care about and they start showing you stuff. Google starts from a place of like, what do you want to look at? And sure, you've got your things you're subscribed to and they've got their recommendations, but most people are like, I want to look at UFOs. UFOs are my guilty pleasure. If I can't sleep at night, it's like, I'm going to go find out what's going on with UFOs. Like, what's out there? I want to know who's out there. So like, I go and find UFO content. Okay, cool. Like what classified airplanes could possibly be what people confuse with UFOs? That's my search, right? So then I get all these crazy YouTube channels that come up, right? That's a really specific search, right? That's some niche content for me. So if I'm a YouTube creator that's new, I'm looking at long tail searches, right, of my topics that I want to be authoritative of. I'm doing long tail searches that relate to those topics. Long tail means I'm not just doing UFOs. I'm answering a question in the headline of my video, in the title of my video. Classified airplanes that people confuse with UFOs. Then I'm like, oh, that's it. Clicking on that. And there's a lot of strategy things you can do with looking at you can go put like Answer the Public. It's a great website for this. You can go put in a topic, and it will give you common queries that people have related to that, so you can see traffic around those. And there's some, I'm trying to think, vidIQ is the one for YouTube, where you can actually see opportunities so you could put in one of those questions, and you could see how many videos on YouTube are actually speaking to that question. And so you can find what the low traffic, or the videos that the queries that have high traffic, a lot of people looking at it, but low content. People aren't making a lot of video around that. So I would go look for those long tail queries, and then I'd go create YouTube videos around that stuff. And that'd be an easy way to kind of kickstart the YouTube piece. And I think that one of the things that you're going to see happening over time, as AI continues to just make a lot of routine content creation easy, there's going to be a lot of gurus that are out there, faceless YouTube channel. You're going to make millions of dollars a month with this faceless YouTube channel. And they're going to go and we've all seen the ads. They're going to go through and they're going to give this AI generated content. But just my marketing mentor, he's going to say, cool, what about this article you wrote says that you wrote it and no one else could have wrote it? And I think we're going to see the proliferation of just generic info videos, and then more and more people finding those videos not helpful, because if that's what they wanted, they could just go to ChatGPT on their own. And they're going to be looking for more and more of those individual perspectives, which brings us right back around to authenticity. If you aren't bringing your authentic self, your authentic perspective, your knowledge about these topics, your lived experiences to relate to other human beings that can relate back to you, and in putting that throughout all of your content, whether it's AI generated or not, I think you will not find long-term success on any of these platforms.
You said it better than anybody else could have said it. 100%. Well said. And it comes back, as you said, to authenticity. Right now, we're in a day and age where information, person, solution. We got to get in front of that information. We got to be the personality. We got to be the authentic person, sharing our personal beliefs, personalities, and valuable content. And naturally, that'll put us above AI and anything that could ever come, because nobody can replace human connection.
I'm giving you coffee shop snaps over here. Love it.
So I got to ask, what makes you different than just a normal VA or Fiverr or another company where people could just go and get their content done?
Love that question. So I think it comes down to a couple things. I mean, our team last month edited about 7,000 videos. So we make a lot of content, and when you do something a lot of times, you get pretty good at it. We have more than just a VA. We've got a robust team that touches the actual content, that will actually go through and manually clip stuff with the help of some AI tools. We'll also do quality checks and extra eyes in a way that just one person never could do. So part of it is it's not just you're getting an editor, you're getting a whole creative team behind you. The other thing is our app. And so, a lot of people, they're like, hey, give me a Google Drive, upload your content, throw me a Google Drive link. We have a custom built app, an app teleprompter. We have a way to share scripts with people. You upload that content, you can see the progress of your project as it goes. We have our account managers that are always there ready to help answer questions, check on projects for you, get you updates. For us, it's about how do you just create and then just send the file and go on to the next thing. I want to make creating content as easy as possible so that you are never getting so stuck in the process of post-production or editing or posting that it stops you from actually creating in the first place. I want to make it so people just can create and then move on to the next thing they need to work on, so that they're not working on the big stuff,
Absolutely. I got to ask, do you guys have coaches in-house, or if somebody's just starting, wants to learn how to develop their story or how to do a hook? Do you guys have coaches coaching people through that?
Yeah, so we have account managers that will work for some of our packages. They'll work with people one-on-one. They'll do regular calls with people, review content. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. Here's what you should try instead. And then we'll do a branding session with people up front where we go to understand their brand, make sure we document it, ask the questions so that we can, when you're editing, the biggest thing that can go wrong is that people will have a vision in their head of what their content looks like when it's edited, and then we edit it and there's a gap. Then people are like, this doesn't feel like me. And a lot of times people don't know how to actually articulate that. It's a feeling they're feeling, but they don't actually know how to say, this is why it doesn't feel like me. They just say it doesn't. So part of our job is to answer that question for you, so that when you say it doesn't feel like you, we know the right questions so that we can figure out it does feel like. How do we get to it doesn't feel like you to it does?
Sure.
And a lot of people don't know how to describe that. So we have stuff on our app that helps us do that. And then we have awesome account managers that, help pull it out of people's heads what they're trying to say but don't have the words for.
Absolutely. You said it, man. There's a big reason to go to your company, and not just. So I used to run a marketing company when I was 17. And we worked with VAs and all the other people, and we were the ones that, were uploading the files. Trust me when I say I've looked into your stuff, your app, whatnot. Your stuff makes things a lot more seamless.
That's super nice, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's our goal.
I had to ask the questions, though, for other people to,
Yeah. Get familiar with it.
Absolutely. I could talk to you all day, man. I mean, we could go for a lot more hours, to say the least. So thanks so much for coming on.
Dude, I appreciate it. I love that you're talking about authenticity. I feel like we can never talk about it enough. And I think that even if anyone's authenticity, I know. No, you don't. Get familiar with it again. And I think it's something we all got to keep practicing. So good on you for making that such a core theme of what you're doing.
Absolutely. You're making an impact, man. I really could talk to you all day. And we'll maybe have round 2. Who knows?
Yeah, let's do it.
With that in mind, how can I, as well as the audience, support you?
Yeah, I mean, go and follow me on Instagram, Connor P. Snyder. Check out our website, story2wise.co. And we will give you a free video edit if you want to try us out. So we gotta, just go on there and I think it's story.co/free-video-edit if you want that free edit.
And if you want to shoot me a text on that, I'll drop it below as well.
Perfect.
And I'll drop all your information below as well.
Cool. And then, if there's anything that I can help you with or anyone in your audience, I'm my DMs are open, as they say. So shoot me a message and would love to hear what you're up to and how I can help.
Absolutely. So 2 last questions.
Yeah.
1, what is your definition of authenticity?
I would say my definition of authenticity is you feeling confident about the things that you're doing and the things that you're saying and that they actually represent you. That's how I would define it.
Love it. And if you had one last piece of advice for everybody here today listening, what would that be?
Experiment. Like you've got to experiment. Don't ever feel like if you're feeling stuck or stagnant or unhappy with where things are, you don't have to have the answers yet, but you got to experiment. And I think sometimes people get paralyzed by, is it the right thing? Is it the optimal thing? And you can't know that until you try stuff. So keep it in your head. It's an experiment. You don't have to be married to the results of it. You're dating possibilities right now. And experiment with your life. That's where you find the fun stuff.
Love it, man. Thanks so much again for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening into the Journey to Authenticity podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. If you liked what you heard and you found value, go ahead and subscribe and leave a review. This helps me to bring on the most interesting and most valuable guests. That way we can serve you at the highest level possible. Also, why I have you, I want to create your awareness around my coaching. If you're ready to transform your life and to start to really be happy within and go create a life that you so desire, go ahead and go to bradenbelknap.com or go to the link below.